All right, so today what we're going to do is walk you through the setup of activity 2.3.1, which is the stress strain calculations. We're going to be following the guess method of problem solving, similar to how PLTW lays out the 5-step problem solving method. So with a couple of variations. And again, if you look up here, you have your common variable names, your formulas, and then your equations. So let's get into it. So let's start with number one. It says a weight of 20,000 pounds is supported on a rectangular base plate that is 11 inches wide and 2.5 feet long. Base plate rests on a concrete slab. Determine the stress that the base plate exerts on the concrete slab. Express your answer in units of pounds per inches squared and then pounds per feet squared. So first thing I'm going to do is G of the guess method, which is your givens. So anytime I have weight, that is going to be a force. So force equals 20,000 pounds. And then I have a length and a width. So L equals 2.5 feet. And we want that in inches. So we're going to have times 12 inches. And then we are also given a width. So width in this case equals 11 inches. Now the next thing we have to do is we have to figure out what the problem is asking for. So that's going to be our unknown. In this case, it says determine the stress that the base plate exerts on the concrete slab. So our unknown here is for stress, and that is a Greek letter. So if I hold down Alt 229, I get the Greek letter, which if I look up here, that Greek letter is the lowercase sigma for stress. So I'm going to put that in parentheses. So Greek letter sigma for stress. Next thing we're going to do is figure out what equation we're going to use, the E of the guess method. So if I want to find stress, again, I'm going to go to my equations up here, and it says normal stress sigma equals F divided by A. So that's the one that I'm going to use. So I'm going to go Alt 229 stress equals force divided by area. Now, I don't have my area yet, so I'm also going to need that. Area of a rectangle equals length times width. So now I got my equations. So the next step, all I have to do is to substitute. So here, I'm going to use stress equals force, which is 20,000 pounds, divided by area, which I don't know yet, but I can figure it out, and A equals length times width. So I'm going to go 2.5 feet times 12 inches, which is 30 inches, and then that's going to divide by 11 inches. So that's my substitute. And then lastly, it's the solve. So if I key that into my calculator, excuse me, I can get the answer for problem number 1. All right, let's jump down to problem 2. It says determine the maximum load that a 0.75 inch diameter steel rod can support if the normal stress in the rod must not exceed 30,000 pounds. So again, I'm going to use the guess method. So my G here is going to be, what am I given? So if I look at the problem, I have a diameter, so lowercase d equals 0.75 inches. And I also have a stress that equals 30,000 psi. Okay, next I'm looking for my unknowns. Here it says determine the maximum load. So in this case, maximum load is really a force, and that's all it's asking for. But I'm also going to need to figure out area. So force and area for my unknowns. My equations, right? I'm going to use the stress equation again, but this time I'm going to solve for force. So if I type in my stress equation, stress equals force divided by area, I can rearrange this. So I'll show you what rearranged looks like. If I'm solving for force, I'm going to use stress times area. So F equals stress times area. I'll put that in brackets just to show you how that gets rearranged. All right. And then your next equation is going to be your area. And if it's a diameter, we know we're dealing with a circle. So area of a circle when you have diameter is pi, which is alt 227 d squared, and d squared then divided by 4. So those are my two equations that I'm going to need. All right, next step is I will substitute. So if I have force, I'm going to substitute 30,000 psi for stress, and I'm going to multiply that by area. I don't know my area yet, but we'll figure that out here in just a minute. And then area equals I, and my D here is 0.75, and I need to square that, and then divide by 4. So I have to figure out area first, and then I can solve for force. Again, we'll let you key that into your calculator and solve. And don't forget your units as you are solving the problem. All right, that's going to be part 1, and we're going to come back and complete the rest of the problems with part 2.